All right. Welcome to the Mental Breakdown with me, Dr. CD. My next guest will actually be the host. He wanted to ask me some questions, so we're going to change the format up a little bit like that, which is completely an option that I'll throw on the table. I've had a lot of people contact me now willing or wanting to do a podcast with me, so hopefully at some point it gets so much where I have to screen people or something but now at this point right now, anybody who's interested, we talk about it a little bit in this podcast. So just go ahead and listen. He kind of asked me some questions about where I'm coming from and what I'm doing. What are my objectives here? So I think it's really interesting moving forward. So let's go ahead and get on to the second post here with John Robert Habibi.
All right, let's go.
All right, so I'll give you the floor. You're gonna be kind of leading this. You're the host, so I'm gonna post this as you as the host. It's gonna be same thing, the Mental Breakdown with Dr. CD, host Robert Habibi. So you're the guest host or guest host, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, go ahead. Help lead the way.
Okay. All right. So good afternoon, Dr. CD, and congratulations on your new doctorate.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a milestone, I guess we could say. Yeah, for sure.
It's a major accomplishment for sure. You should be proud of yourself. I'm sure you are. I'm sure everyone that knows you is pretty happy with that. So anyway, so I guess one of the reasons we're having this discussion is to find out more about who you are. And so your audience can always come back to this if they're interested to know more about you personally. And that's the purpose of this conversation we're going to have. And it's a free form. We're not having this planned out at all. We're just going to talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just shoot from the hip. And I guess just as anybody who is listening or watching this is, I guess I don't want just looky-loos looking through the holes in the fence. If they see like, hey, I could do that, and I'd love them to join and do the same thing, either as they could come on and be the host like you and ask me questions, or they could come on. So yeah, I guess completely free form. In some situations it could be more structured, but today let's just do it.
We're going to roll with it.
Do it live.
Okay, so I've known you. I was actually thinking about this. How long have I known you? And it's almost 9 years. So I've known you relatively well. So some of the questions I'm going to be asking you are probably questions I've already asked you before, but we can delve deeper into them possibly.
Sure. That sounds good.
We first met teaching at PSU, which is a university in Phuket, and we actually worked. We started on the same day, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah. We got the initiation, or the what do you call it? Not initiation, getting. Yeah. Well, I mean, walk. Yeah, we got walked around, met all the same people at the same time, and the rooms, the doors, the rules. Yeah, we got that.
So how did you end up in Phuket and PSU teaching? What led you there?
Yeah, good. I was before that I was teaching at an elementary school, but I guess the reason I went to Phuket was I was at the end of my mixed martial arts career, and I still wanted to do things. I came to Phuket still with that in mind. I thought I was going to continue my mixed martial arts career, kind of go into Muay Thai, and do some of those, which I did do, but at that same time I realized. I kind of came to the conclusion that actually I'm kind of done doing this, especially trying to jump into a new style like Muay Thai. I was like, if you're going to be a Muay Thai fighter, that's what you need to train. You could go from Muay Thai to MMA, but MMA to Muay Thai wouldn't really make sense, especially in your 30s. So I was 30 years old at that time, still athletically capable, but past my prime, not just physically, but I would say just emotionally and mentally. I didn't have that hunger that I had when I was early 20s. But I love Thailand. And I mean, I love Asia. I went to India, was the first country, then Japan. I love Eastern culture and philosophy, and Thailand was it kind of put it all together. It had a little bit of Orient, a little bit of Indian culture, it was kind of in between those two, in a way that it kind of, the Buddhist underlying culture. I love Thailand. So I guess that's my point. I know I'm kind of dragging on the question, but I really fell in love with Thailand, and it wasn't about martial arts anymore. Although I was continuing to train, I wanted to stay there. I wanted to stay here, and somebody introduced me, hey, teach English or something. Okay, and then they, oh, you have your bachelor's degree. Oh, you can actually get a work permit, because there's a lot of people doing like little shady things. If you don't have a bachelor's degree, you can still teach English, but you have to do the visa runs where you're leave the country. You're kind of working under the table. You might make a little less. It's kind of shady. If you have a bachelor's degree, mine was in philosophy. It doesn't have to be in any specific thing. Then you just needed the TEFL certificate to like a month-long course to get certified English teacher. So that was just at first I was just looking to stay in Thailand, and so that's why I started teaching. So that kind of answers why I came to Phuket in the first place, then why I started teaching, and then I loved it. I enjoyed it. I loved my kids. I loved the teaching. I loved the whole thing, and I really decided to change my focus and energy into teaching. So I started my master's in education, which was an online program. And at that time, I was like, okay, after I get my master's degree, I want to work at a university. I'd always wanted to be like a professor, kind of next step, maybe a lecturer or something. I could do it. And then I talked to somebody that was at PSU and I realized you only needed your bachelor's degree. So I was like, okay, wow, I'll apply right away, and got that. Ended up in the same room as you, getting a little orientation. That was the word I was looking for, not initiation. Kind of similar, but yeah, an orientation. So that brought me there.
So you were interested in the teaching and got your master's in education. Is that right?
Yeah, and I hadn't completed my master's at that time. I thought I had to in order to get a job teaching at the university. It helped that I was maybe currently underway. It was a master's in education, specializing in teaching English language learners, completely applicable to being an English teacher, of course, but I didn't need that because I didn't have it yet. I didn't get that until maybe a year later. I think I was only like 6 months into that program.
Okay, so once you finish your master's in education, what led you to PsyD, a doctorate? What's PsyD again?
Yeah, PsyD is a doctorate in psychology. There's several doctors. A lot of people they're familiar with the difference between like a PhD in medicine and then you have an MD, right? So PhD is more academic, more research based, and then these other ones like a JD, Juris Doctoral, is like if you're going to be a practicing lawyer. If you're going to be a professor of law, you're going to get a PhD in law. If you're going to be a lawyer, the Juris Doctoral JD is going to be. So this PsyD is and only certain subjects that will develop their own. There's like a business, you have the MBA and then you have a DBA. So this is like a practical doctorate degree. And the reason I chose that one mostly was for what the course was like, what the program was, what the course work was. And I looked into everything. I wanted to be a doctor. So initially the shortest route to be a doctor would have been in ED, a doctorate in education, because I just finished my master's in education. So it would have been a pretty short route. But I was looking at it, I was looking at the coursework, and I was just like, it's not that interesting. Like, I pretty much just did all this. It's interesting enough. Then I saw there was an ED in educational psychology. And I thought, oh, psychology, that's kind of bringing me back. Because in the back of my mind, I always wanted to be a doctorate of a PhD in philosophy. That was my bachelor's degree. That was kind of initially my goal at some point. So but psychology is very related because I like consciousness, philosophy of the mind, philosophy of science. So very related. I'm thinking, okay, that's interesting. again, I looked into the coursework and stuff, and I was like, it's not that interesting. So then I thought, well, let me start looking into different programs maybe. And I realized, I could get into a PhD program in philosophy. And then, but the PhD programs, the problem with philosophy, PhD, and psychology, there was little coursework because they're expecting you to already know kind of where your specialty is in that area. And they're asking you, most of the applications actually have you write a proposal for your research. And I'm like, whoa, I'm interested in psychology, but I don't know what I want to research yet. I want to lay the foundation for. That's when I found this PsyD. So even though I'm not necessarily trying to be a practicing psychologist, I saw the coursework as extremely interesting. I mean, I'm taking mind, body problem, stress, psychology, and death and dying, which became my research. I got to take it on pharmaceuticals, something that I'm very against, but I got to take 2 courses in it and really understand brain chemistry. So it's like it was the coursework that it was very widespread. And by the time I did my research, I had a good ground, because going into that program, here I am, I had no, I took some psychology courses as an undergrad to fulfill something in my general ed, but like I had no more right being there than anybody else. I'm in a doctoral program, and I have no background in psychology. Now, however, I did take in order to get into that program, I had to take a 6-course leveling master's. So they recognize that I'm academically sound enough to be in their program if I have these 6 basic courses, and those are like theory courses on different developmental theories and addiction or something, some counseling, some ethics courses and stuff like that. Kind of just gave me the grounding to enter the program. And then the whole program for me took 7 years almost, because I moved at a very slow pace. I took all my courses. I took time off in between each course to read the textbooks and really understand every course that I took.
Wow, 7 years. That is a long time.
Yeah. Maybe
so now
6,
you're over it.
Yeah, a little over 6. What?
A little over 6 years. Okay, so now you're done with the program recently. Again, congratulations. It's a major accomplishment. It's something I had always wanted to do, but that's a different story. Well, you took the course of the path of where you're actually going to be doing hands-on as opposed to academic work once you get your PhD or your PsyD. Is that correct?
Yes, that's what the course, or that's what the program is designed specifically for. In fact, most of my colleagues actually are already licensed therapists. You don't need to have a doctorate to be a licensed therapist. You need a master's in psychology, and then you need to get licensed, which is a big process. And I'm not that interested in that. That requires like 1,000 hours under somebody, and there's a lot of rules. There's a lot more money in it, and you can do it, but I don't really like those rules of psychology. I want to be, and you're kind of bound by these rules, which I'm not against. Rules are good in certain things, because there's a lot of, you're dealing with people depressed, suicidal, and stuff. I mean, that's sensitive area. You do need some oversight for sure. It's something I may undertake some point in my life, but that's not my goal. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So looks like you're going to a different direction. And do you know what that is at this point, or are you still trying to find your way?
Yeah. I am. I guess I do kind of know a direction. I guess I don't have a specific, like to earn my doctorate. Obviously, that's a clear goal that I set out for. I got it. Like that was more direct. So now that I've got it, though, I do feel I mean, there's something like I feel free. I feel like I don't want to just say, okay, now I'm a doctorate in psychology, and I deserve respect for whatever I say. Obviously there's still so much. I really feel like it starts now. Like, this is where it starts. Now I've at least earned the right to explore these topics at a position where I should be at least taken seriously. But I'm on a quest, because now I feel like there is an aspect of needing to apply what I've learned. Like, I have this theoretical base, and I haven't what I haven't earned is practical application. So I guess I'm in that's the direction I'm leading. That's kind of what this podcast is about. I'm exploring my own self and my own ideas, and exploring others who wish to talk about things. It's not meant to be therapy necessarily, but there's so much I need to find out about the mind in act. Like, I've got a lot of theoretical understanding of psychology, and I haven't and that's what I think somebody who's going to be a licensed therapist, that's why there is 1,000 hours, or maybe sometimes it's even 2,000 hours, where you're working under somebody. You provide therapy, and then you report back to them, and you talk about it. I think it's a good program. I'm not against it. It's just, I mean, living in rural Thailand, it's not practical for me to go back to America and do something like that. I could probably do something like that here, but again, it's just so bureaucratic. It's kind of like it would be too much restraint, I think, to get into that now. So that's why I'm not choosing that route. But I'm kind of, in a sense, I am doing that on my own. I guess I'm going to give myself 1,000 hours, and these podcasts, I think, will open up an opportunity to, like, we'll discuss things sometimes. If there's something that's maybe should be discussed off, then I'll still have those people, and you're one of them, as you know. I do need. I mean, I think everybody needs to confide in somebody and about certain things. Some of them are comfortable enough to be in public, and some of them might choose to be private. So I think there'll be a lot of that now. I'm at that stage. So I guess I'm creating my own system to kind of consolidate my theoretical knowledge, as our good friend Dr. Phil from PSU, he said, there's something about there's no use in being theoretically brilliant if you're practically useless. That's always a good line, right? And I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be theoretically brilliant and practically useless. Not to say I'm theoretically brilliant, but I'd say I'm kind of off balanced right now. I'd say I'm more theory right now. I'm trying to balance that out. So that's the direction I'm going, is trying to apply all this theoretical, because I've been knee deep in this, probably much deeper than that, I guess, deep in reading, research, textbooks, writing, a lot of just me alone in this room here. This is my office, typing, researching. Of course, I've had conversations with you about stuff, but a lot of introspection the last 7 years, a lot of just like wheels turning. I haven't really got to really talk about it. So absolutely, that's the direction I'm going.
So it sounds like, obviously, what you've been doing the last 7 years is just taking in information and knowledge and processing it, and now you're at that point where you want to actually apply it.
Yeah.
Practical application of the knowledge and wisdom and everything that you have in life experience. So you want to say you're a little bit off balance because it's mostly has been theoretical.
Sure.
And now you want to take that and apply it so you be more balanced. Okay, that's well said. Very good, very good. Okay, and so you think this podcast is going to help you perhaps get you there?
Yeah, and I don't know exactly how. It was interesting. My first podcast kind of it happened in real time. I think every podcast I have, especially in the beginning, so especially this one included, is going to help shape the purpose of it. So it's almost like, I mean, I've been listening to podcasts for a while, and I think it's a good forum, if you will. I think it's just a nice means of communication across disciplinaries, and life experiences and in my first podcast, I did a second podcast. I still have I've had a lot of people contact me and are interested in doing something with me, and I think with each one, it will help shape moving forward. So including today, what we talk about today will help lead it. Like you were the one that came, hey, let me ask you questions, and I thought, yeah, that's a good idea. So that already is okay. That it's not going to. I don't want. Yeah, I'm not. I don't know if I'm that good of an interviewer, really. I actually do think that, yeah, a discussion and dialogue. So it might actually turn more into a back and forth banter. I'm interested to see where it goes. So absolutely, I think. What was your question? Yeah, something about this.
My question was that this podcast would help you formulate how you would like to apply the knowledge and the theoretical knowledge that you have gained.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
So it's going to help you.
I think it will, but I guess, yeah. And I guess when you asked that, I was trying to explain how, and you weren't. But yeah, I don't know how, but I think it will. Yes.
Okay. So, and would you like to interview different varieties of people, or do you want to limit it to psychology?
Absolutely. No, I want all walks of life. But so I had this, I might have sent it to you. I have a general format that I kind of want to follow. It's not like too much structure, but there's an aspect is psychology. I mean, I think psychology applies to everything, but there's kind of like I also want to apply it to sociology or cultural, like society. So that's different, that's like, global phenomena, or like, so I want to take some personal experiences, talk to people just on a real level of like some experiences, then kind of explore their mind, and then also apply that to like on a social context, which is pretty vague and pretty much applies to anything. And I think that I could invite anybody. Yeah, I don't think that limits anybody. I'm not looking to limit things, but sometimes if you're limitless, it's good to just have some sort of focal point to just kind of get it started. I think if I leave it as vague as that so personal experience, introspect into the mind, social, society, cultural things, that pretty much is my lens. I think we need some vantage point just to kind of put stuff into perspective, but I don't think that limits me. I would say it's limitless on who could join me. Yeah. I mean, there's nobody I'd be like, oh no, you're not for this podcast. I mean, yeah, I can't imagine. I can't visualize anybody that wouldn't.
Okay, so you said you've been listening to different podcasters. Do you have one or two favorites?
You know what? Dark Horse is good, man. Brett Weinstein or something. Yeah, and then I'm not sure if that's his wife. He has. I feel like they're a couple. But her last name is not Weinstein. She's also, they're like evolutionary biologists, and I that just popped up. It's interesting. I listen to a variety. I haven't. That's the one that just popped in my head. But that wasn't like I just had listened to a couple. I try to just keep it. I don't like getting sucked into one person's mindset. So I pretty much just whatever gets recommended to me, which is dangerous in this day and age. Or I kind of let the AI just, hey, you like this, maybe you'll like this, and I jump around a lot. That was just a name that popped up because you asked. I don't like throwing out names because I don't want to make it seem like, oh, that's what you like. But I like the question answer format where so I eventually I'd like to be that. I guess I would like to do something where people ask me questions, but it would be I guess they can ask me questions about anything and on the spot. That's I don't know if I'm ready for that. I mean, they can ask you like I don't even know some of the name. I can't even name the names of these podcasts, but there's some good people that they're just like they take live audiences, and you can ask them questions about anything. Sometimes they're like, oh, I don't know that much about that, but usually they know about a little bit about everything, and even if they don't know exactly, they can ask a question to get enough information to give a response. Those are the most admirable podcasts I really like. I like listening to people who are just like, just responding to live. I guess I like these live formats, which is why I like this. What I really would like to move to is this Twitter Spaces, and you can have up to 10 people, and you're just all I don't really know exactly how it works, but it seems pretty cool. There's like a moderator, a host, some conversation, just dialogue, man. I mean, we need dialogue. That whole, I'm big time against this censorship movement, which is just like, it's dark, man. It's dark.
Well, so you like this bantering, where you have some like whatever 3, 4, 5, 10 people with a moderator, exchanging opinions and thoughts. Is that right? But the other thing, actually, the one I heard the loudest from you was the style of where you either have a live audience asking you questions, or perhaps even submitting questions to you, or maybe even sending them to you through email in advance, and then you just read the question and then you respond to it.
Yeah, I guess I'd probably do something like that first, where I'd have some time to. But I don't. I see people do that, and I'll say those aren't as interesting, even though they give a fuller and probably more robust and educated response. For me, I like the ones that just bam, you're just giving a question off top and look to respond to it. I mean, of course, you can tell if somebody's, faking it, like Hillary Clinton getting a question on a like a, it's like, oh, she had a response already propped up. I mean, you can tell. I like it when I like watching somebody kind of have to fumble a little bit. I mean, there's a little bit of I like being able to relate to somebody. And watching them kind of fumble through and answer some deep questions, but not being scared to answer it.
Is it possible to create a podcast where you're actually being asked the questions?
Yeah, the way they do that, there's a lot. Those are the ones that I'm watching. They have somebody, they have somebody kind of like moderating it's usually, like you said, like through email. There's an open chat and somebody's feeding them. There's several ways you can do it. There are some that they get the questions in advance, but then I feel like there's a cherry picked and you have time to respond to them. So those aren't as good. But even this, there's a moderator. They maybe are going through questions. It also makes sense that you shouldn't just take every question. I mean, somebody could. And then there's like the super chats where people pay to ask a question. That's how there's a couple that I listen to those, and then they like put a little donation on the chat. I don't know how it works because I don't see that side, and I think there's somebody else working. So there's definitely that's out there. That's definitely something that's going on. I think that's popular and will continue to become increasingly popular.
Okay. So let me put you on the spot here. I'm going to ask you a question and see how quickly you can respond.
All right, well, we only have like 5 minutes, but I hope we can jump back in. I don't have Zoom Pro yet, so we only got 40 minutes.
Okay, so my question is, when it comes to grieving, how does that affect an individual? Does it make them a better person? Does it make them traumatized? How does it generally affect people? How does grieving affect people, either negatively or positively?
Yeah, I'd say I'm a big proponent on the promoting an idea of post-traumatic growth, not to undermine the seriousness of post-traumatic stress, but it's a make or break situation. I'm not saying it's not real. Grieving can bring people into the deepest. I mean, people can commit suicide. People can take their own life. I mean, that's like the ultimate thing. Things are so bad, it's not even worth considering another option. And that's real, and it can happen. And this is one of the reasons why I'd have a hard time jumping right into therapy. I'm not sensitive enough over this matter because I'm I'm big on, you got to get your shit together. Like I'm kind of like, boom, snap out of it. Like we need to grow from this. Like that. Those are your options: commit suicide or grow from this. That's like, if somebody is depressed, that's my mentality. That's dangerous. That's dangerous as a therapist to say that. If I said something like that, obviously I'm not going to get my license. But that's real. That's where I'm at right now. Is that's my mentality. Is like, we have to grow from every hardship that we have in our lives, and our option. But at the same time, this is why I'm scared. Hey, suicide's an option. I believe you can take your life at any time. I would try to talk somebody out of it, just because it's such a permanent solution. That's probably not the best choice to make, but it's real. That's it. And if you're not willing to commit suicide, that means that you do see a light at the end of the other tunnel. That just the fact that you're not killing yourself means that deep down inside that you can come out of this stronger than before. So that's in short, I guess, where I feel like. Of course, that was my research topic was grieving. At the same time, I know that's insensitive, and to deal with somebody who is actually grieving is difficult, and actually something I don't have experience with. Although some of the people in my research were still grieving. They were. I did talk to people who were talking about a relatively recent loss.
Okay, well, very good. It's good to know that you're aware of your abilities and lack of abilities at this point, and that if you were to pursue a clinical environment, you would need obviously more training if that's the path you choose. But it looks like you're more interested in teaching, expressing your opinions, just bringing your knowledge forth and trying to apply it to making people happier.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, happier, or I mean, some fulfilled on some level, or yeah. I mean, fine. Yeah, I hope I would like to help people kind of find direction. I guess, and but share it. It's a journey. I guess one thing I don't want. Yeah, I never really want that position of like authority, though. Like I mean, I admit being like, I do want to I want to have respect for my position to some extent, where like, if I say something that it at least is credible enough to be acknowledged, but I'm not looking to be the authority on especially when it comes to a personal person, like a personal relationship. One thing I fear about being like a therapist would be that somebody depends on me too much. Like, that's too much. I'm not willing to take that burden for my own life. Like, that's huge. Because it is burdensome. I mean, and I have had some just informal conversations, about depression or something, and it takes its toll on me to see somebody and to talk to somebody in a dark, scary place. So yeah. I mean, yeah, that kind of means. So it's less a minute. Are we still? You're still free. If you're still free, we'll log in, jump right back in the same thing. Is that cool?
Okay, I'm free.
Let's do it.
I'm free.
Let's talk a little bit more. Maybe not the whole 40 minutes. All right. See you right soon.
See you soon.
I'm recording now. Here we are.
Okay.
Back.
All right,
yeah, we can wrap it up, and then I guess one thing I'd like to say, anybody that's watching and listening to this, yeah, like after the live podcast, and then we'll kind of go maybe talk more privately if there's anything that's can be discussed that way. I think it's good actually to kind of do that. So
okay. So you said something very interesting, and that was burden. You didn't want to have the burden of someone else's trauma or life experiences. Could you expand more on that? The responsibility. What is it you're feeling? What do you mean by burden?
Yeah. Well, I guess to some extent, I guess I kind of mentioned it earlier. I guess what that would be is there's an ethical board for licensure, and there are strict rules and regulations, and one is privacy, which is very important, of course, because people are going to tell you their, some deep things, and then you're not allowed to tell anybody about them. And that's extremely burdensome. Now, I'll be honest right now, anybody listening to this that is like a licensing board 10 years from now, I can't imagine me ever not telling my wife what I talk about. You know what I mean? But, and that's, I mean, am I, and I probably would do that. I imagine most psychologists who do swear by confidentiality, I'm imagine they're going to tell their spouse, just how could you keep some of that stuff inside? Or I guess what you're supposed to do actually is not, though. That's why most therapists also have a therapist, and that's who they have to confide in or something. But I mean, those are real issues. Like, I don't want anybody to think but I'd rather just be upfront from the beginning. And that's, I guess, why this podcast is like, okay, there's certain things. If you've got some issues that are so deep that you're not willing to just discuss them, some things maybe can be discussed offline. And I would keep those privately, probably. But again, I mean, except for my wife, I consider that me. Like, I have conversations with her, but then it stops there. So I guess, and I don't know for sure. I'm just imagining that being a therapist would be extreme to hold that stuff. Yeah, you're holding that stuff inside. Would be extremely burdensome.
Okay, and just want to ask another question regarding the whole psychiatric industry. Do you think it's effective? Do you think people really need it? Do you think perhaps it's too regulated? What's your opinion of the whole industry?
Yeah, I don't know if I have enough understanding of the industry to say. I mean, there would need to be regulations to some degree. So I'm not like, I mean, it's a sensitive area to not have some serious regulations, but generally my default position is less regulations is better. Now, I do think it's useful. I think it's helpful. I think people who are trained have it, but again, I don't think it's necessary. It's hard to determine if just because somebody has the right letters behind their name that they are better than just some, like if you were in a village, sometimes like the village elder could probably be as helpful. Like here in Thailand, a lot of people would go to the temple and talk to a monk. I mean, there are other ways. It's not, I don't think it's necessarily the best way. There's some people who it's probably benefits best. There are a lot of specialists. I guess the most important, the from the industry perspective, the way that it's set up, I don't like the medical industry. So definitely not I have a negative position on pharmaceuticals. I don't want to get too much into that yet, although that's part of the industry. But just the design of therapy is extremely expensive. But if you have insurance, then it's free. And that's a problem because people with insurance can have, therapy. But I don't think the therapy, insurance drives up the cost. Like when you have insurance covering anything, it drives up the cost. So then it kind of isolates people who don't have access to it. So that's a problem. The other problem would be, I guess, you should be able to choose your therapist. I don't know if you do or not. I imagine if you don't get along with your therapist, you do have, I'm sure you have the ability, but if you're in that insurance program, you probably have less to choose from. So I would rather it be, I guess, more free market type. Just you have the ability, you can choose to get one that is licensed in this area, or like I'm definitely more, I would definitely want to be, my approach would not be as regulated in this way. What I want to offer to somebody, or what I would like to offer, is not for everybody, but it would be nice for somebody that chooses that. So I guess I think, and I don't know for sure, I think there's not enough choice on the part of the person who is requesting therapy, who's seeking therapy. I don't feel their options. I don't feel they have enough options. I think, and I don't know if that's the case. I guess I'd have to ask people who have sought therapy. Do they feel they have the choice to kind of choose who they want to work with?
So I gather you yourself have not had therapy.
I have never had therapy. No.
Okay. Would you consider doing it yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. I would. I would. I'd be happy to. I mean, I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to pay for it though. Yeah, if somebody wants to offer me therapy, by all means. If anybody gets this, that's a therapist. Yeah. I mean, you can. I mean, we can. I mean, I do. I mean, it's not like formal therapy, but I mean, to me, I do get therapy from every conversation that I have. I mean, I need. I mean, dialogue. It's therapeutic. Talking is cathartic. So, I've never talked to a licensed therapist. Completely happy to.
So if you were to, what issues would you consider talking about?
I don't know. I guess I think that's they're supposed to figure it out. I don't know what they are. I mean, right? I don't know. I guess. I mean,
really?
I mean,
so you think the therapist is responsible for finding the issues?
I think so. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't really know. I don't know. That's the funny thing. I don't know what goes on in a therapy office. I have no idea. I have a doctorate in psychology, and it's designed. I mean, I know a little. I know about theoretically what's supposed to go on. I guess in there, to some degree. I mean, there's a process. There's there's this informed consent at the beginning, and you lay out, let them know what their rights are and everything, and then there's this some sort of assessment process, but I don't know. But I mean, as far as like what actually goes on in those rooms, I have no idea.
So what do you think about this whole diagnosing them for, I don't know, the DMS-5 or whatever it is? I mean, it's a book this big, right? So
yeah,
I guess part of the job of the therapist is to diagnose somebody that with one of those ailments or mental health issues.
Yeah, absolutely. It's two parts. I guess I don't like labeling people under. I think it's a good starting point, and I think AI should do that 100%. I think that area is like you fill out a questionnaire, and this is actually goes back to like finding the right therapist. Like I think a therapist should be tailored to the person. I mean, some therapists I don't think would matter. I mean, there's a lot of people who I would not help. I would make things worse. I would make them commit suicide 100%. Like I'm serious. Like that's why I have to be upfront about that. Is somebody's like, I believe there are some people who are suicidal that would benefit. I would probably make some people step over the edge, so but I think if we had, that's like what I think we should have a questionnaire that would kind of diagnose you, but that's as a starting point, and we can't be put in those boxes. I mean, that's because so I did study some of my early courses were on the DSM. Is it 6 now? I don't even know. 7. Where are we at? Something.
I don't know what it is.
No, that's APS.
DSM, not DMS.
But I mean, like unfortunately, the longer we go on, the more disorders there are, and then the more like sub disorders there are. But if we don't label, I don't think that person. I don't think the person that should know even what they are, what supposedly they have. I think there's some stigmatization, but I do think it's a very effective tool, and we base it, and it can continue as it does get developed, and it does help us. There are amazing revelations that come out of it, as far as like there's certain tendencies of people that have certain conditions that are like it's literally something, the way the brain works, and they're like, some obsessive compulsive disorders or something that are like trigger. I mean, there are things that can be classified, and for the sake of moving further quickly, we should take as much information as we can to start us off. Okay, let's start here. But then once you're there, then from that point on, we should move away from it. So that's like, I guess the diagnosis should be, okay, that's what this person is at this point. They're diagnosed, our therapy. We'll start from there and move forward from there. But once you make a connection with the therapist, and now you're developing a relationship and moving forward from there, I don't think there's as much value referring back to the DSM-5 or wherever we're at right now.
6, 7, 8. So just very quickly, I would imagine just anybody, even normal person, would fit into one of those diagnostics, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did for fun. I could easily, and it is, I mean, that's the thing. It is subjective. I was able to put myself in a lot of things. I forget what they were, but I could also take myself out by just slightly changing my answer to the questions that they would ask. So I mean, again, that's the problem. That's a problem with a lot of science today, is that you can manipulate it if you want. I could diagnose you for something or not for the same thing based on a very small nuance. So that's why I think AI should take over, because that's the only way we could have it's still not like, I mean, and it's not like AI, like, I mean, it's just, I mean, we already have that type of system, just to like, I mean, it actually is already AI in a sense, because usually we diagnose somebody not based on, that's the thing. Most diagnosis comes from questionnaires, and it's not a therapist. I don't know, that might not be true. I mean, a therapist could diagnose you, but it's general. Okay, actually, even if a therapist diagnoses you, they're asking you questions, specific questions based on the DSM, and it's how you answer them. And you might answer, some of the questions are very, I mean, I wish I could pull an example off. It's been a long time since that was at the very beginning of my, those courses were the ones that I had to take to get into my program. So those, like I said, those are like 5 or 6 years away. And because I'm not an active therapist, I kind of like, that's not that interesting to me. So I'm not as knowledgeable about that area, because it wasn't my interest. I'd have to apply it to some of my coursework, but I'd always do the minimal, because I was like, that's not what I'm interested in. But yeah, basically those, yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah.
So obviously there are different degrees of mental illness. Lots of normal people could benefit from therapy. Absolutely. But they don't need to be diagnosed into one of those categories. And then, of course, there are those who have, what is it, ODCB or whatever it is, obsessive compulsive disorder, or they have certain phobias, or they have certain addictions. Those are the ones that most of we think about who need therapy.
Yeah.
No. Whereas, yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, I know you're saying like this, normal people. I mean, yeah, I don't like separating. I mean, we are all have abnormalities, and then it depends on the time and the place. Like, I mean, you know, if you're in a room with certain people that think a certain way, you're all of a sudden abnormal, but you move to a different place or different time 100 years ago, your thoughts could. So we all could benefit from therapy, and that is one of the ideas of this. And just talking. It's I mean, I actually, you know, it's funny, we've come so far. I like Adlerian and like just basic talk therapies. Freud even, I mean, he gets a lot of riff now. I mean, you know, cocaine addict and weird sexual, sometimes he gets a little too sexual on some of his theories, but his just aside from all the specific, his concept of therapy is just talking. And generally, if you let somebody talk, they can kind of come to some conclusions. That's why I said, like, what are my issues? I don't even know, but if I talk enough, then I can kind of, they come out, and then I can address them in real time. And so 100% everybody would benefit from, well, okay, therapy, right? Everybody will benefit. Let's say everybody will benefit from discussions about themselves.
Yes, I think so. I mean, so many people, normal people, functioning people, have self-love or self-hatred, if you will, issues. Have issues with confidence, have issues with hopelessness, have issues with relationships and finances, and just so many other issues that aren't necessarily require hardcore therapy, but they can benefit by talking to someone who is able to listen and to, I guess, reflect back to them what they're hearing, so that the person can get greater insight into their issues and perhaps resolve those issues by themselves, which is more like coaching, which is something I study as opposed to therapy.
Yeah.
So I think there's a big difference between people who have some serious mental health issues and then the rest of us who can still benefit tremendously from some kind of a coaching or therapy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But don't have those debilitating issues. What about, just very quickly, I just was listening to autism. Is that a mental health issue or is that something different?
There's a lot. There's a lot of different. It's a mental health issue for sure. Yeah, yeah, it's a mental health issue, and then there's we call it autism spectrum disorder now, because there are so many different areas again. But that's one of the examples of like, it's good. It is actually good. I think there's some environmental. There's more diagnosis because we're looking at autism as a thing, and we're kind of identifying all these characteristics. Some of that's good, some of that's excellent, because these are things we didn't recognize before. So there's some people saying, why is there so much more autism now than there was before? We're looking at different environmental conditions that could have caused that, but then also we never were really looking for it before. So it's like, and that goes for all disorders. There's way more disorders now, or people are diagnosed with many more disorders now than in the past, and that's two-part. And I actually think one is now we're looking for them and we have more disorders to diagnose you with, but at the same time there are some environmental conditions. Pharmaceuticals, I think, make things worse in the long run. Pharmaceuticals can do one thing. They can, and not just psychopharmaceuticals, all pharmaceuticals. In fact, some of the pharmaceuticals that are used for like blood cholesterol levels and different things, they have effects. They all have effect on the mind. Anytime we take these chemicals that were created in a lab and not part of our evolutionary history are disrupting our body systems to a degree we have no idea. And the double-blind, random controlled studies that they do are limited in time and scope to identify what problems we're actually causing. So yeah, autism is real, and I think it's good that we're looking at it. There's still a lot of areas to, but again, at the same time, I looked at autism, and like, again, I looked at what diagnosis I could easily diagnose myself on that scale. My son, looked at him, is there easily could, I could depending on the day or the time, I could check this. So it's not, I guess there's a problem with the stigmatization of it. That's why I think those scales should be used in a way that are for, if somebody is providing therapy, it's more for them to just kind of get grounded as a starting point. So
you mentioned you look at your son and to see where he fits in the spectrum of mental health issues. Do you do that? Do you find yourself doing that without realizing it with other people, just people that you meet?
Yeah, and I'd say I always had the predisposition to do that, and that's kind of that. I would actually, but it's probably, having the background in psychology probably made it more, but it's kind of a self-fulfill. I'd say that actually that fact was kind of more the underlying driver. It wasn't like I started I got interested in psychology and then that made me do it. So, but I've always been, that's kind of my yeah, I always kind of look at people, what kind, yeah, even when I was real little, like I'd always put people in categories and stuff. So again, I mean, we do things. I've got this love-hate relationship with like nomenclature and stuff. It's like, I mean, I don't, we do need to put things in categories sometimes it's very beneficial to do. It's also problematic. So, yeah, I find myself doing that, but I wouldn't necessarily say that I find myself doing that more. That's part of my.
But you wouldn't consider that judging people, then, or would you?
Well, it's a good question. Well, yeah, no, it gets into prejudice, and I'd say, yeah. I mean, I'd say I do. I mean, it's everybody. I think has that. I think it's better to be on top because it works at a subconscious level. So I guess bringing it to a conscious level, addressing it, being able to discern, you know, I mean, we need, it's very valuable to be able to recognize, like, you know, you're in a situation, I mean, who's a threat, because especially nowadays, it seems like, I mean, it's popping up. It's kind of a phenomenon. There's like, you know, mass shootings, all these type of things, or, you know, and it's not just shootings, it's knife attacks, or just, you know, people just kind of flipping out or whatever. So I think it's important to recognize if there's somebody that's has some serious psychological issues in the room that you walk into. Very valuable thing to do. So I mean, yeah, I guess bringing that very, I mean, that's deeply rooted from our deepest animalistic evolution. So that I'd say our goal should be bringing that up to a conscious level and in real time being able to judge. So judging is very important and valuable and it's not a bad thing. Yeah.
So it's very interesting what you said, because we are subconsciously judging anyway. It's just how our brain has been evolved over centuries or millennia, or actually hundreds of thousands of years. Yeah. So we automatically subconsciously judge anyway. That's just the way our mind is designed. But yeah, what you're saying is, at least now we bring it to the conscious level and become more aware of what we're actually doing.
Yeah, and I guess so. One problem would be trying to shove it back down, which some people do. Telling somebody that they're bad for judging, all they're doing is going to shove that back down into the subconscious, which is going to be much worse, because then we judge unfairly. You know, and it's not just people. It's not just about people. It's situations, food. You know, judging the nutritional value of food, and you know, so I mean, our whole life is all. I mean, a lot of our brain network is about categorizing stuff.
Yeah, every second is a judgment, right? Or every millisecond.
Yeah, right. Yeah, literally, yeah.
Yeah. Well, very good, CD. That's interesting. Okay. Would you like me to ask you some more questions?
Well, if you have anything to ask, or we can stop this, we can go offline and have our secret meeting that only people who join me on podcasts we're allowed to have secret meetings. But or no, I mean, if you have any more questions,
any more in-depth questions, well,
or okay, anything about my project, anything. I mean, it's good. We talked, I think, almost.
So I can tell you.
I don't want to bore people too long, but yeah, you got a question?
Okay, no, I think we can carry this on behind the scenes, where I'll give you some feedback as to what I have taken away from this.
Okay, good. Yeah, that would be much appreciated. So yeah, I guess the main thing to, I guess, leave off on as a note as yeah, I mean, it's kind of an invitation. If somebody's like, hey, that's something, they're interested on any aspect of anything we said, I hope they join the project. I'm calling this a project right now, and it's kind of getting developed in real time.
Before we go, like, I'm very big on evolutionary psychology. What's your thoughts about that, and where? I mean, I draw everything from evolution. In other words, I believe that our mind has evolved over hundreds of thousands, millions of years. And so if we want to understand the mind, we just have to understand how we were living 20, 50, 100,000 years ago, 200,000 years ago, basically in small groups, like a troop of monkeys. And that's how we lived. And so to understand the mind, all we got to do is understand the dynamics between a small, tightly knit group. that is trying to survive interdependently. And that's basically how I understand the human psyche. Do you have something like that?
Absolutely. That's actually my first. I took my first evolutionary psychology class was as an undergrad when I was studying abroad in Japan at Waseda University, and we had like top, like some of the best professors. I mean, she was like I think she was from Yale or something, and like, but they were, it was an amazing program. I had some of the best professors there. I mean, for me that I've had in my lifetime, because that's like a top university. They were educated in the West, but they didn't have the best English. So the way the courses were taught, they were kind of learning how to, or that was like their first course that they were teaching in English. Like they had only taught in Japanese, and then they would teach in English, and then they'd follow it in Japanese, and we'd take classes alongside with Japanese students. And at that time, yeah, evolutionary psychology wasn't that big. This is like 2005 or something, and absolutely revolutionized my understanding. So I've been big. It opened up my eyes. I went back, so I still had another year in philosophy. That concept like was integrated into almost every paper I wrote after that. It's like you said, it's everywhere. I mean, any biological, you have to look at, if it's biology, you have to look at it through the lens of evolution. Or, I mean, that it doesn't, if it doesn't make sense from evolution, you need a serious explanation. And I guess, so, I mean, this could go on for everywhere. Actually, you opened up a whole can of worms with that question, because it takes me in a lot of different directions. One of them is that, I mean, that's one big thing against the pharmaceuticals. And I kind of mentioned that it's like, but anything, a lot of the medical approach to a lot of things, and this includes vaccines and surgeries, and like I'm against, it's not like they all have their place, but they will, like, if something's life-threatening, if there's a serious epidemic where your life is threatened and you can vaccinate against it, do it. If there's a surgery that if you don't get done, you're absolutely going to die, of course. But those all come with a backside. And does it outweigh that? That's the question. Does it outweigh? Medical establishment is quick to say, yes, it's worth it. They don't really understand the underlying implications. A lot of it comes from evolution. I look at, our life, I guess to bring it a little bit back more from a psychological perspective, and say that, yeah, the way we think has developed through evolution and everything. But that goes, this gets, I'm kind of getting tied up on my words here, because it's so big and so complex. And you can't look at, that's my general point. Yeah, absolutely. You can't not address that. But I guess I also want to just present the other argument, is that we have rapidly entered this new realm. I mean, we're almost transhumanistic, and so I almost feel like the people who are against this idea are actually pushing us in a direction where evolution will become less, looking at things through an evolutionary lens will be less significant. So yeah, true, the last 100,000, but I would argue, million, even before we were human, just life, the evolution of life as a whole has brought our consciousness into play. But because of technology, because of these, and because of like, so I'm against like eating like things that aren't whole foods. Like once you start breaking food down into vitamins and nutrients and stuff, and it's not the way we were evolved. Our body doesn't process them. Like formula, breast milk is going to be better on so many different levels that we don't even fully understand. That's how we evolved. Like take that away, you don't know what you're breaking up. There's a relationship, the heartbeat, there's enzymes, and there's real life features that go into these systems that are like embedded in not just evolutionary psychology. We are leaving from there, and the longer we are away from that, then the less important it will become. Like it's true that we've evolved over millions of years, but it's also true that we evolve in rapid there's certain time frames that we rapidly evolved, and we are probably in one of those times now. And we're evolving in a way that's almost unpredictable. It doesn't have to do with our ability to reproduce sex. I mean, like, there's sperm banks and stuff where somebody that needs a little money could father 50 children. It's like, how does that help evolution? I mean, or how does that play into evolution? We're actually, as a species, I mean, 1,000 years from now, evolution might not be. It might not be. So big questions to ask. But at this point right now, absolutely, I agree with you. I mean, we have to, that has to always at least be addressed. And if it goes against evolution, we need a serious reason why. One more thing to add on that, though, that is interesting about, no, I'm not even going to go there right now.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, thank you. I enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah.
And I hope so will the people who listen to this.
Yeah. Hopefully. So yeah,
we'll
get on. We'll chat over there on our other platform or secret.
Okay.
All right. I'll see you soon, or talk to you soon. You said you want to do audio.
Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Audio.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.